Red headbands of this martyrs brigade promise immediate entry into heaven. No small consideration for these youths who may be called upon to walk through Iraqi minefields. Human detectors clearing the way for tanks and regular troops.
Waves of young boys who volunteered to become martyrs, clearing minefields by running across them.
تا وقتی در قاموس ما، در فرهنگ ما، در منطق ما شهادت در همین سطح از اعتبار نخواهد توانست بر جمهوری اسلامی و ملت ایران فائق بیاد.
و کدوم هنرمندی و هنرنمایی زیباتر و الهیتر و ماندگارتر از هنر شهادت؟ مثلا ملتی که شهادت داره اسارت نداره. اونایی که میخوان اینو بزنن دارن پایه‌های استقلال و امنیت ملی ما رو میزنن، پایه‌های ماندگاری ما رو میزنن.
In Islam, as in Christianity, as in Judaism, there is what you might call an end of time scenario in which the Mahdi, the descendant of the Prophet, returns and leads the forces of the true believers in the final struggle against the forces of the unbelievers. Now, what is really alarming is that from the pronouncements, particularly of Ahmadinejad and others of his group, they believe that that time is now, that this is the end of time, that this is the final struggle.
Anybody who tells you that we shouldn't take this seriously is not looking at the individuals who are in power, who are ruling Iran today. They believe that by creating apocalyptic conditions, that they will bring the Mahdi back. Every speech that Ahmadinejad gives, whether it's at the United Nations in New York or in Tehran or in Mashhad or someplace else, begins with this. He says, "Let my words and my actions hasten the return of the 12th Imam."
O God, hasten the arrival of Imam al-Mahdi and grant him good health and victory, and make us his followers and those who attest to his rightfulness.
Khamenei, Ahmadinejad, and some of the others truly believe that they've been put on earth in order to lead the Muslim world in a glorious jihad against the infidels and establish the rule of the 12th Imam on earth.
They really, in this cult, believe that they ought to try to get him back so they can have the battles that will end the world and send all them, in their view, to heaven and the rest of us to hell.
What makes that particularly alarming is the whole question of nuclear weapons. During the Cold War, both the United States and the Soviet Union had nuclear weapons. But they didn't use them, and they knew that they wouldn't use them because of what we used to call at that time MAD, mutual assured destruction. Each side knew that if they used nuclear weapons, the others would respond in kind, and this would obliterate everybody. With these people, with their apocalyptic mindset, mutual assured destruction is not a deterrent, it's an inducement.
Deterrence is not likely to work since it's their purpose to bring about this calamity rather than to avoid it.
At the current time, and not once during the past 31 years of the existence of this regime, has the United States possessed the willpower to do anything about the Iranian regime in Tehran.
I think President Carter felt that he could deal with the Iranians. It turned out he couldn't. Ronald Reagan thought he could. It turned out that he couldn't.
Clinton, through Bush, and now Obama have all believed that there was some level of benefits that Iran could be offered that would get it to give up its nuclear program.
I don't think that one can proceed with this regime by negotiation. They regard this attempt or desire to negotiate as a sign of fear and weakness.
There's only one thing that the Iranian regime is seeking from negotiations over its nuclear weapons program with the West, and that's time to complete its weapons and its arsenal.
The regime in Tehran is determined to acquire nuclear weapons, and there are no carrots that the United States or anyone else can offer that's going to get them to give that program up before they achieve the objective.
Recognizing that diplomacy may fail, the Obama administration is considering alternative strategies.
Secretary Gates told the White House in January it had no effective strategy in place for dealing with Iran's nuclear capability.
So far, we're a paper tiger to the Iranians, and that's unfortunate.
The administration may soon shift toward a policy of containment, a strategy attempting to prevent Iran from using its weapons arsenal.
Nuclear containment is not a wise policy.
We've already seen Iran acting in a manner that is uncontained, specifically through its use of terrorism to wage war against the United States, against Israel, against other nations.
It would be far better if we could stop the Iranian government from developing its nuclear weapons and further developing its missiles.
You have to somehow have policies in place that question the legitimacy of the current regime and do more than question it, but pressure it into going out of business.
For years, U.S. lawmakers have employed sanctions against the Iranian regime.
Sanctions have typically relied upon multilateral participation. And there are at least 2 permanent members, veto-wielding members of the Security Council, that are of a view that Iran is actually a client, not an enemy.
Governments like Russia and China have their own interests in Iran, economic interest, military and political interest. I think the Europeans clearly still see Iran as a big market. I think that's true for many businesses around the world.
You have only to walk through Tehran's malls stuffed with electronic goods from around the world to get the point. U.S. sanctions have been in place for more than 26 years, with limited impact.
The reason these countries and these companies continue to do business with Iran is they've never been put to a fundamental choice. You can either do business with Iran or you can do business with the United States, but you can't do both. It is an economic crisis that can help bring down this regime.
We need what people have been speaking of, which is crippling sanctions.
Extremely strong sanctions that would cut off essentially everything except food and pharmaceuticals and bare necessities of that sort.
The majority of Americans support tough measures against Iran. The support for economic sanctions is overwhelming, and it crosses party lines. In fact, the support for military strikes against Iran are surprisingly high.
I don't think it's a matter of choosing between diplomacy or sanctions or military force. The right way to use any of these tools is when they are interwoven. If you can't come to agreement, it's likely there will be economic pressure, and if the economic pressure is not successful, then military force may be utilized.
I have long hoped that it would be possible to bring down the Iranian regime without using military force. I fear we have squandered the time we had to effect that kind of change through non-military actions.
There are those in the world who say, this is mainly Israel's problem. Israel will take care of it. We don't need to worry.
Israel was created, among other things, to protect the Jewish people from